Hello and welcome to Nick V Uncensored. Today we've got John Dowling, and today we're going to be talking about the great reveal. We're going to be talking about the currency reset, crypto XRP, and also gold and silver. We're going to talk about all the updates, what's going on with, November the 22nd. Apparently, it's a very big day for the new banking modernization that Trump is doing. But just before we begin, we're on YouTube. So I want to just put a disclaimer out there because we want to stay on YouTube whilst we wake up as many people as possible using the Matrix tools cleverly and strategically. So I just want to say that we're not giving any financial or health advice. This is educational and entertainment purposes only. We're just speculating and giving our opinions and exploring what's going on. So guys, please do your research. John, thank you so much for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
Hey, Nick, how are you doing? Thanks again for having me on. Once again, I really appreciate it. Keeping busy as always, as you know, with the frenetic amount of updates that just keep coming more and more. And it's going to intensify as the remainder of the year goes on. And also would like to say happy belated Veterans Day to all the men and women who are serving, have served, both my family and friends and many others watching. How are you?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm very good. I'm just learning a lot and, doing these podcasts and absolutely very happy that we're back on YouTube as well and able to interact with the viewers that we lost 3 years ago. But we're here and we're not going to stop this fight, John. We're just going to keep pushing and pushing until, until there's change, really. That's what it feels the right thing for me to do is to do that, to step into my mission and just keep interviewing people like yourselves and from different sectors, health, news, financial, geopolitical, and speak the truth.
Well, you do it well, and I appreciate it. I'm sure your audience does as well.
That's great. Thank you, John. Look, so what's going on with the with what's new with the currency? I know that you want to usually do a presentation. Shall I just let you get cracking with that?
Up to you. I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay, so there's a lot to show as customary, but it's starting to get, as we talked about offline, more and more revealed. What was concealed is now starting to come more and more to light for those who can pull the proverbial curtain back. So I will get started here with some of the articles. Let me know when you can see this.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So yesterday was not only Veterans Day, but as you know, the countries copy each other, was also Election Day in Iraq. We still are waiting the outcome. It might have come out over there and just not been released here yet. But just like the corruption here in the US and I'm sure in England, many of the Iraqi citizens were dissatisfied with the election process. Apparently, not as many people had showed up to vote as they anticipated. It's been widely discussed whether or not Prime Minister Sudani is corrupt and, in fact, working with the Iranian factions within the Green Zone Parliament. We always talk about President Trump even called him sort of tacitly, quote, a smooth criminal. So the question begets itself, will President Trump, work with Sudani and try to, massage what he's got for the oil? Or is he going to work with an interim prime minister and governance to try to get around that? That's what remains to be seen, but more will be revealed as we go along. Here's another interesting piece that ties into obviously what is backing these currencies, or I should say will be backing these currencies, which is gold and silver and many other elements. As you know, Nick, Iraq has, as well as many other parts of the world. They're announcing that Iraq is amongst the largest gold owners in the Arab world with reserves exceeding 171 tons. Honestly, I think they're lying. I think they have a lot more than they're telling us. They don't necessarily have to reveal the whole thing to us. They're just giving us a bit of a flavor of what's going on there. But it is a pretty interesting tell of sorts. Here's Majid on X. This is yesterday, talking about COMS, Iraq, Central Bank of Iraq, Central Bank in Ireland, Israel, Italy, Jamaica, Japan, Jordan, Kazakhstan, etc. So what we think he's referring to is all the central banks within the factions of these countries are doing two things. They're backing themselves up with copious amounts of gold because, as you know, the world is awash with gold. But what it's not replete with is silver. But it really also speaks to the fact that these central banks are being targeted as President Trump is going to remove the private Western central bank here in America. It would stand to reason that he's going to do much the same throughout the totality of the world and allow these nations to stand on their own 2 feet, become sovereign, and of course be on a level playing field.
So can I ask you a question there, John,
Please.
before we move
Yes,
forward?
absolutely. No, go
Can you
ahead.
go back to that screen, yeah, because I want to show you
Oh,
something.
okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me get back to that.
So on this screen here where there's Iraq highlighted in red, that's it.
Huh?
Yeah.
Correct.
Is this a Q post?
It is.
Oh, it's a
Yes.
Q post, right? So
Going
why
back
do you
to
think?
November.
Let's go into it a little bit deeper. Why is
Okay.
it that Iraq, in your opinion, is highlighted in red? Why does it stand out so much?
Because it's the proverbial ribbon cutter for all the other countries. Iraq will be the first one to go and will set the table for everyone else.
And I want to make it clear because we've got new people listening, and I want to
Sure.
ask, what do you mean that Iraq's ready to go?
Well, Iraq has been working behind the scenes, as you know, Nick, for quite some time. The What I mean by that is the real rate, and this is actually. Let me show you something here, Nick, that will complement what you're asking, if you don't mind. Here's another article that came from a couple of internal Iraqi publications. So the real rate for Iraq is not found on the CBI, Central Bank of Iraq website, or the Forex, right? The real rate is in the private sector, the Ministry of Planning. Now, we don't typically on my channel talk about dates and rates, but I thought this was noteworthy. It's saying in the article the potential shift in the value of the dinar with expectations ranging from $3.22 to $4.25 has captured the attention of investors, economists, and governments around the world. Not just an economic story, but as you said, Nick, where we're alluding to, a history in motion. So it's been going on for quite some time. As Iraq stands on the verge of financial transformation, excuse me, the message is clear. The nation is ready to move beyond its past and write a new chapter in terms of prosperity and power. So, one thing I want to address, Nick, is that we talked about this offline. There's a lot of scuttlebutt about removing the 3 zeros. It's not what people in some camps think it means. It's not a redenomination or a lot, because they wouldn't go through the effort of passing the important laws, bringing in the small notes and coins, passing the HCL gas laws, doing the elections, this and that, all these things intertwined to just take a $25,000 dinar note and make it $25. That would defeat the purpose. What they're doing is taking the 3 zeros off the rate in the private sector, and whatever that's going to be will then get revealed at the right time on the aforementioned CBI and Forex, and then it will float up for a period of time, just as the Kuwaiti dinar did, as we discussed in the last podcast many years ago.
Right. So if you hold 1 million dinars, okay, which is basically very, very undervalued right now to buy 1 million dinars, it's under $1,000, very easy. Are you saying that if you have 1 million dinars and the rate goes to say $3, that when that rate changes to $3, that I will be able to exchange that back from the banks and get $3 million? If I
Correct.
had 1 million dinars, $3 for 1 dinar, so I would get back $3 million, right?
Get 3 million minus the 1% basis point that the bank will charge for their service fee.
And why does this sound so good to be true? Too good
Because
to be true.
Well, because people don't understand it, and it's even though this has happened before in Kuwait, it's never happened to this degree where all the countries are unwinding. Because we've lived in corruption for so long that we've almost accepted that as commonplace. That it is hard to make a mind shift that we could actually go through this wealth. But that's just people not understanding that this thing has been in progress for quite some time.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about Kuwait dinar when you say it happened with Kuwait?
Yeah, I mean, the short of it is, as you know, back during the Gulf War, 1991, 1992 period, we had U.S. and other troops, British troops, Australian troops, occupying for a brief time in, Afghanistan and parts of Iraq. Excuse me. And the Kuwait dinar was a currency that was sort of, like Iraq and many countries, undervalued and overlooked. And there's many investors that invested in that back in the day. And they told people overseas that the Shah had died and that the oil fields were going to burn. Kind of sounds like Iran, right? With the secret nuclear power plants. Here we go again, similar themes. And sort of a lot of people cashed out and gave up because they, had the fear that this would never happen. Too good to be true, right? They play on our fears and insecurities and not understanding what's going on behind the scenes. Back to your previous question. So then the next day or two later, brokers called up clients and said, hey, it's happened. I had a friend, Tyler, who unfortunately passed, God rest her soul, a few years ago. Her father had invested in it. and it started at, I think, $3.38 and floated all up the way to what she tells me around $12.38, 40 cents, something like that. And and then he cashed out at that level, and then it came back down to its eventual rate. And that's what we see in historical replication happening here all over again, but now for all the countries and provinces as part of the level playing field Trump's talked about.
So obviously there was a war, the Gulf War, and before the Gulf War in 91, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
the rate was like $3 something for Kuwait dinar. And then the Gulf War happened. That then affected their rate. It became so weak, so weak. You could buy millions, like I don't know, with peanuts. It's a bit like the Vietnamese dong and the Iraqi dinar today. And then after the Gulf War, they recovered. Their economy recovered, and then because of that, they were able to restore they restored their currency rate to like $3 back to the way it was before. Now, some may argue that okay, that's what their rate was before. Um, they're a very wealthy country in terms of minerals, oils, and resources like that. But why don't you tell us about Iraq's history? Before it was heavily manipulated, I think it was in the 80s or 90s, I'm not sure. Can you tell us what the rate was before in Iraq?
Well, in talking to other people who know this extremely well, Nick, what I discovered, I'll give you an example. PIR, known as Phoenix, his handle, was an Army Ranger. And so he has military experience and history. To the point of your question, he educated me years ago the fact that when Saddam Hussein was a little kid, sometime in I think the 50s, the dinar was actually at as high as $5. And then the US came in, the deep state part of the US, obviously, came in and just subjugated them, drove them out, took their oil, took a lot of the reserves, and through various banker wars, which is what this all equates to, pounded down the value of the dinar because Iraq and Saudi Arabia and a few other nations would not agree to a central bank system. And that's ultimately what led to the devaluation of their currency to keep them subjugated and down. And then, as I said, now it's been moving up. One of the other things, too, Nick, that people, just my humble opinion, have to think about this. You can't look at this as like a typical investment, like a stock or a bond. This is very much it's been a long protracted process, and it's a faith-based blessing because there are a lot of Iraqis over there that are Christians and throughout the world that have been subjugated. This is going to free up a lot of people. We have to think about collectively as a society the benefits of the Iraqi people and not just ourselves. So this has all encompassing elements to it, but hopefully that addresses your question a little bit.
Of course. Now, the other question that I have is why would the deep state allow for something like this to happen? For people to have Iraqi dinars, the Iraqi rate revalues to $3, $4, whatever it is, and people become rich overnight. Why would they allow that to happen?
It's a great question, Nick, and that's been something that's been posed around to me and others quite a bit. So I'll give you it needs a little bit of articulation, but I'll try to be as succinct as I can. With the deep state, we know with movies, I know you interview other great people about this, like our friend Mahoney. He talks about this all the time with his background in production. In Hollywood, for example, they do what's called predictive programming, where they have to tell you the truth in plain sight through the guise of entertainment. So they told you without telling you. They have a twisted sense of morality and what they call justice. So similar and akin to precious metals. I don't know if you know this, but less than 1% of the at least here in the US, 1% of the population or less owns precious metals. Similarly, a very small percentage owns the currencies because most people don't know about it, most people don't understand it, or they don't believe in it. Like you said, too good to be true. They've been conditioned to think that way, that they could never actually be free. We've all been enslaved by the Federal Reserve dollar, which is not federal or has any reserves. So in the cabal deep state's agenda, they have to tell the truth. They also have to let 1% of the population have this because, in their sense, we're collateral damage and it's some twisted sense of fairness and justice in their warped sense of thinking.
Mm. And it's not even 1%, really. It's under 1%. I think 1% of the population is still in the hundreds of millions. So it's a lot less than that. If I've got
Right.
I think, if I've got my numbers right. Interesting. Now, recently, very recently, and I don't know why this has happened very recently to me, but a lot of people, a few people have reached out to me through emails and people that I know. Um, and they're just asking me, Nick, where can I get the Iraqi dinar? And can you explain why is this happened to me recently? All of a sudden, just random people asking me for the Iraqi dinar. What's going on that they want it right now? And by the way, the link is below in the description that I'm going to leave because a lot of people asking me, and I've used it's called Chakra Energy. I'm going to leave the link below. They're very reliable. We've used them before. We always buy and we diversify, not just in currencies and silver and gold and everything. But I'm going to leave, this is for the currency. I want to leave it below so that the viewers can have a look. But can you explain why now? Why am I getting this reaction from people at this time? And can you explain what's going on out there in the air? What's going on?
Well, I can't speak for the specific people reaching out to you, but as a general consensus of society, this always happens with any investment. Once the whales start buying it, it starts leaking out. And, we didn't have the advent of the internet, decades ago the way we do now. So we have a lot more access to information. AI plays a component in that, as you know, because you've referenced Chat GPT quite a bit in the past. So I think it's a number of things, but I think just people are hearing about it now. It more is getting revealed. A lot was suppressed, and now information and truth finds its way through time. It's more and more getting revealed, and so more and more are finding out as they're getting curious about it because we're getting to the eventual end of this process.
Of course, yeah. Can we, is it all right to carry on with the presentation? Because I know I think you
Yeah,
had some more, didn't you?
I did. I just want to make sure I
Yeah, of
satisfied.
course, of course. Well,
You're the
I
host.
know you was going through the Iraq, and I just wanted to. I didn't want to go back. I wanted to stop you there, and we can have a few questions, and then we can continue. Thank you, John.
It's your show, so no
No,
problem.
no, you've got to. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, so let me know when you can see this next one. It should say GPQ on it. You see that?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I do. Yeah, something big is
Okay.
coming. Yeah,
Yeah, something big is coming. So this is a great article that one of my team members found. Once again, Federal Reserve had a meeting that's happened obviously a couple of days ago, but what was to discuss? Foreign currency rates. Why would they do that? Because they know all foreign currencies are about to revalue. This meeting is about the problem that phenomenon creates for their free money system, the fact that the Federal Reserve System may soon be gone. Now, you and I know we discussed this. I showed you articles that in 2020, President Trump baked the Fed into the Treasury. He's now revealing it optically. The big question, will the U.S. return to gold? Word came out that President Trump will give every American at least 2,000 tariffs, Nasara. I believe this could be coming as a monthly disbursement, especially as the government shutdown lasts over 40 days. Well, they're talking about ending the shutdown now. I think it's been, if I'm not mistaken, about 42 days now. So we can see that time frame was purposeful. At that point, President Trump could issue an executive order to handle business without Congress. Well, that would be the Insurrection Act, I think he's talking about. No wonder the Fed is sweating bullets. Said on President Trump's live the other day that Trump would do something for the people because they won't be getting Social Security increases or Doge payments due to the shutdown. If it passes or exceeds 40 days in duration, which it has, he's issued the executive order. Trump could then lawfully remove these Congress blocking progress and move forward with what we said, the Nasara transition. Meanwhile, while that's all happening, foreign currencies revalue, the US dollar and the Dixie wobbles, right? Perceived value of it. The people are supported with a monthly payment of at least 2,000 because he gets the illegals and the foreigners who don't need to be here. For Jassara, he would do something before Christmas to help people. It goes back to the late great Kim Clement, Christmas, I shall make them happy. So you see the multiple comms here, Nick, that kind of go back to your previous questions if you think about it. And it also shows that he's really going to start rocketing up gold. We think gold is going to go around 5,000 or greater by the end of the year. Silver, as of right now, just give me a second to take a look here. I just want to do this. This is in the futures markets. It's already gone up, Nick, 53.30. So it's up almost 6+% just this morning alone, or afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. So it's moving back to where it was, and it's going to just continue to go forward because he's got to do multiple things at one time pretty quickly. Does that make sense to you so far, Nick?
It does. And I want to just mention, because you mentioned the word Nasara, and it's been tarnished, that reputation, that name. And although, it's been tarnished and thrown about, and although it might not, we're just referring Nasara as the principles of what it holds, the
Right.
value of what it holds, but it might not necessarily be called Nasara Jasara moving forward. Um, but the principles and the foundations of its
Mhm.
principles will probably be, we may see happen, but not that it might not be labeled as Nasara, and we're just putting it out there because we're just using Nasara to as a point of reference. So I just wanted to put that out there because some people are a little bit sensitive about that because it's been thrown
Sure.
about too much. So I just wanted to put that out there.
No, that's a fair point, and I don't know what he's going to call it honestly, but he does keep referring to the golden age. He could just,
Exactly, the golden age. Absolutely.
and that
Sorry.
may just be where. No, you're good. That may just be where he parks it. But did you notice, Nick, the other day? I know you're catching articles all the time. I send you, and other people send you. He said, "Hey, maybe we can start sending insurance monies back to the people." So
Right.
we know what that's rife with at the end of the day.
We're going to see lots of compensations. I think
Yes.
this is what you're saying because the
Yeah.
people have been, they're a victim of fraud of a very corrupt government, and Trump is slowly going to phase in compensations, not in an obvious way, but in a very corporate, institutionalized way where people get back, um, you know. A bit like what we've been seeing, if you've had a car or a specific car since this year, then you can get back 10,000 up to £10,000 or eligible for, and it will be like this type of compensation given back to the people, but very slowly.
Right, slow and gradual process because it's like putting a frog in a pot. You just have to turn up the heat a little by little. But it's going to be tranches of money, to your point, coming from all different angles, unexpected monies. A lot of the why now moment is this happening, but it's life is all about surprises and things we don't see coming. But this was, Nick, I want to underscore this point. I know the good people of your audience and my audience will agree. This was always our money stolen from us that's being returned back to us. It's quite literally the wealth of the wicked being laid up for the righteous. That's what I think we're seeing today as the overarching point. You and I were talking about crypto. I know you're like me, are a big XRP, Stellar Lumens, XLM component. So this is a short clip I want to play from you from Treasury Secretary Bissett saying that the Trump administration is removing the regulatory barriers on crypto, a bull market. We see once President Trump makes this announcement, we think it'll be sometime later this month or who knows, after the shutdown is officially ended optically, he's going to start making announcements, and this being one of them, that he's going to start to take the tentacles and the control mechanisms, the handcuffs, if you will, off of crypto and many other things. Take a listen.
We will take a close look at regulatory impediments to blockchain, stablecoins, and new payment systems. And we will consider reforms to unleash the awesome power of the American capital markets. Americans deserve a financial services industry that works for all Americans, including and especially Main Street.
Okay, so that's pretty telling right there. And then we go to Ariel. Well, look at this. As the government, the government, open up again, it's not going to open up as a corporation, but the constitutional republic. Gold and silver are the only true sound money that's been around for the beginning of time, right? So President Trump is funding the new government with tariffs. That's not taxes to us in income tax. That's taxes from other countries like yours that have been robber baroning the US that are now going to start paying their fair share. Tariffs are also constitutional. A lot of people, not everybody, don't really understand the difference between a tariff and the income tax, right? He's going to be removing the income tax, and he's doing it, as you said, slowly and gradually by tax bracket. If you make less than 100,000, then 150, 200, and so on and so forth. But that's going to unwind very quickly once it gets started. It creates its own sort of intermomentum. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then we'll say, screw the SEC forever. Breaking, the Senate has drafted a bill as of yesterday to finally give the CFTC clear authority over crypto and keep the SEC out of crypto. And that's really important for deregulation, particularly like XRP and other coins that are decentralized, to allow them to be owned privately by citizens in their own respective hardware wallets.
Absolutely. Is that it for today?
That's all I have at the moment, yes.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Well, again, John, thank you very much. Very interesting conversation that we've had. So when do you think this is all going to kick off? I
Let
know
me
it's the
open,
million dollar
let me
question,
open
and
my
it's
crystal
like,
ball and see what I can do.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard
I
question.
think I think we're in the window. I
So,
think
I'll put it this way: sooner than later. Sooner than later. I think it's clear to our team. I can only speak for our team. What we see is this has a lot of Kim Clement smacks on it. Hypnotic November, seeing a lot of strange things. We're going to see more strange through the month. Christmas, oh, I shall make them happy. So I think it's clear that he timed it for the holidays going into January. So I think it'll be this process flow over the next several weeks, we'll call it.
And I want to let the viewers know, if you go back to our most recent interview before this one, you will see that John also showed a video of Judy Shelton. Who is Judy Shelton again? Her position?
Well, right now she's being nominated as one of several people. They just haven't mentioned her for Fed chair. She's very much of a gold aficionado. He brought her out in his first term.
And she said something very recently in an interview that all the currencies will go into level playing field. And this is something Trump said in 2017. So do you know what I like about you, John, right? What you do is you show these videos, you show us a bit of politics, you show us some prophecy, you show us different things, Q posts, okay? You show us a little bit of history with the Kuwait dinar. And this is called triangulation. When you triangulate patterns of of information, and that's scientifically proven. I heard it was that this is how you get kind of information together to decide what's going on here. And I like that. But John, thank you very much for sharing everything with us today. I'm going to leave a link below in the description so you can get the Iraqi dinar currencies and all other foreign currencies as well. I've used them all before. They're very reliable. We trust them. We've been with them for years. I still buy now and then. I top my portfolio up. But John, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Well, as always, Nick, thanks for having me. It's always a privilege and an honor. I really appreciate, excuse me, your support over the years. Firstly, I'd like to wish anybody who's watching, whether you're military or half military that is or has served, thank you so much for your service. Happy Veterans Day to you all. You make America what it can be and what it has been. And again, I believe the best is yet to come. Secondly, I'd like to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. So amazingly, in 2 weeks, that's going to occur. Where does the time go? I never know. And thirdly, as far as this blessing is going, stay positive. Keep yourself as balanced as you can. Don't try not to get too high or too low. Keep negative, toxic people out of your way, and keep encouraged. If you've stayed in the fight this long, you'll be really glad you did, because we do believe it's coming sooner than later.
Absolutely. Well, John, thank you very much. And again, we'll speak again very soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nick.